And welcome to Rob Schmitt Tonight. I'm Todd Starnes in for Rob on this New Year's Eve. And in just 5 hours, the giant Waterford crystal ball will fall in Times Square, the crossroads of the world, where hundreds of thousands of people are expected to watch the ball drop. In about 8 hours, a giant moon pie will fall from the sky in Mobile, Alabama. No RC Cola, just a moon pie. But right now, it is 7 o'clock on the East Coast, and that means it is officially the New Year in parts of Europe, in London, with a fireworks display on the River Thames as Big Ben strikes midnight. You will be able to watch the celebrations across the nation right here on Newsmax later this evening. Our coverage gets underway at 8 o'clock. Newsmax's New Year's Eve special with Jon Glasgow kicking off with Rob Finnerty. But first, Minneapolis, Minnesota, where news of another sort is dropping. More allegations of fraud, not just in daycare centers, but also senior retirement communities. Now, the fraud, by some estimations, as high as $9 billion. Money that should have been used to help law-abiding Americans, instead going to the pockets of migrants and, in some cases, terrorist organizations. Now, the fraud going on for years as Democrats turned a blind eye. Eric Trump, speaking for many Americans on social media, demanding to know when people are going to be arrested in Minnesota. Well, look, it's a great system. It's a great question, rather. For years, Republicans have held investigations. They've said they have proof of wrongdoing across the country, not just in Minnesota. They said the crime and corruption led right back to Barack Hussein Obama's White House. Yet, here we are, nearly a year into the Trump administration, both houses of Congress controlled by the Republicans, and not a single person has been arrested. Not a single person has been brought to justice. And the American people, they're beyond frustrated. Here's what Kari Lake, the president's director of the Agency for Global Media, had to say about it.
There's not a damn person in handcuffs. Yet they dragged Roger Stone out of his house. They raided Mar-a-Lago. They attacked President Trump. When are we going to see some effing handcuffs on some effing criminals in this country? The American people have had it up to here. And we want some people locked up, prosecuted, behind bars for the rest of their lives. We're sick and tired of it.
Yeah, Kari Lake with the family-friendly F-bombs there, making a terrific point. Republicans do a great job at outrage. We do a great job at the righteous indignation. But we don't want any more outrage, ladies and gentlemen. We want action. People must be held accountable. Now, there is an online conservative mob armed with torches and pitchforks, and they're nearly at the breaking point here. They're tired of the rhetoric. They're tired of it all. We are in a street fight for the heart and the soul of the country. Democrats, they brought guns and nunchucks to that fight, but the Republicans showed up in Brooks Brothers suits with martini glasses. Now, earlier today, President Trump weighed in, writing on Truth Social. Much of the Minnesota fraud, up to 90%, caused by people that came into our country illegally from Somalia. Congresswoman Omar, an ungrateful loser who only complains and never contributes, is one of the many scammers. Did she really marry her brother? Lowlifes like this can only be a liability to our country's greatness. Send them back where they came from. Somalia, perhaps the worst and most corrupt country on earth. Make America great again. The president's got a great point. And somewhere in Minneapolis tonight is a single mom pulling a double shift down at the Waffle House, doing all she can do to provide for her kids. But she doesn't make nearly enough money to afford child care. There's nobody helping her from local government because all the money was given to a bunch of Somalians. And that's just not right, America. That's just not right. Well, Liz Collin is an investigative journalist in Minneapolis, and she joins us now. Liz, thank you. You've been investigating the fraud in Minneapolis. And again, we're talking about years, not just days here. The federal government now getting involved. The feds with a massive operation underway. We understand Homeland Security agents are going door to door at potential fraud sites. FBI Director Kash Patel promising surge support there as well. But we have not seen the mass arrest. Why not?
Yeah, Todd, the national spotlight continues to shine bright on the fraud story in Minnesota. We've been flooded with tips for months. We've honestly been reporting on Somali fraud for a decade, at least 10 years in Minnesota. But always these tips are the same. These suspicious Somali-run businesses, always with the same story. They don't see anyone going in, no children on site, phone numbers that don't work. But in addition to past reporting, we actually just recently visited a dozen locations as we were zeroing in on autism centers and these adult daycares, and it was on December 15th. So I think before the viral video by Nick Shirley, but we were doing visits during the day, during their posted hours, 4 locations, $7 million combined in taxpayer funds since 2020. We visited them all, similar scenes, no kids at any of the autism centers. Every place we visited, though, on the adult daycare side said they were at capacity, despite us seeing very few people on site. The police were called at one autism center where we wanted to ask some questions. We were circled by a luxury sedan in the parking lot when we left that one. Also at another child care center, we were told 60 to 70 kids come after school. We checked back after school. Again, no kids were there. There, we also saw a luxury car in the parking lot at a place that had been billing the state hundreds of thousands of dollars. But again, as you pointed out in your monologue there, this really has been in the news for quite some time. And I can feel the frustration on the Minnesota taxpayer level. People are wanting results now that finally this is getting so much attention on the federal level.
Yeah, and of course, you're an independent journalist. You've been carrying the story much of this time, much to the dismay, by the way, of legacy media. They're desperately trying to downplay and discredit the story. Minnesota Red Star Tribune, the state's flagship paper, had one fraud story, one, where they dismissed Nick Shirley as a, quote, right-wing influencer. They don't do any investigation on their own. They're just summarizing what the Somalis told them. New York Times, the paper of record, the old gray lady saying the bad guys in this story are President Trump and Nick Shirley, writing equipped with a little more than iPhones. Mr. Shirley, other right-wing YouTubers and live streamers zigzag around the country and overseas in search of politically charged footage. This has to be frustrating to you as a professional journalist.
Yeah, these are also labels that we get quite often. We're also right-wing propaganda. God forbid you tell the truth, especially in Minnesota. But I wanted to highlight a story that also hit the news today. But a Somali-run daycare in Minneapolis is now claiming that someone broke in and they stole important documents. Nokomis Daycare is the name of that daycare, not featured in Shirley's viral video. But they held this bizarre press conference alleging that someone broke in there on Tuesday. Someone stole children's enrollment information, employee documentation, and checkbooks, they say, saying that the Somali community is being targeted. However, Minneapolis police say they have no record that anything was stolen. This place has surveillance cameras.
Well, let me jump in here.
Let
me jump in here for just a moment because we actually have the audio from that. As you pointed out, it's a very bizarre press conference. Let's take a look at that.
Today, I want to talk about what happened yesterday. The suspect came in from the back, broke in from the back kitchen. Our office doors was broken into as well. We saw that, unfortunately, there was important documentation, enrollment of the children, and also employee documentation that was gone.
All right. Are you buying any of this?
Well, then you have Minneapolis police saying they have no record that anything went missing. But again, this is what the local media, I know it well, this is what they'll spend their time investigating. And again, the narrative will be that the Somali community is being targeted and the fraud story then is put on the shelf yet again. But you're right, the total now at $9 billion in counting. But I'll tell you what, we have been going out to dozens and dozens of these sites, and it is just a similar scene everywhere. Now we're hearing, though, that people are being bussed in, or perhaps there's more staging going on, but this really is very out in the open, whether it's transportation companies, autism centers, kind of you name it, when it comes to a social service program that many people have figured out how to manipulate.
and every single penny going to those folks, not going to law-abiding American taxpayers. And that's just unacceptable. Liz, we appreciate your great work and your great journalism. Liz Collin, thank you. Tudor Dixon, host of the Tudor Dixon podcast, joining us now. Tudor, legacy liberal media, they're attempting to discredit the reporting. They're not even trying to verify what this poor guy, Nick Shirley, was doing. They're just attacking him. Your reaction to that?
It's no surprise, and that's why it's going to be so important for especially outlets like Newsmax to continue to go out there and tell the truth about exactly what is going on. This is critical that we are making sure that the people know that this fraud is happening. This is exactly what Elon Musk was discovering when he was in Washington, D.C., and he was getting pushback. Let's not forget, he was not only getting pushback from the media, but also threats on a regular basis from just the general public, and that's what the mainstream media wants, is to scare us into looking the other way. And we're not going to do that. We want to make sure that our taxpayer dollars are going exactly where they should be. I mean, as we look at this today, we are being robbed. We are being robbed. And the mainstream media and the Democrats are saying, forget about it. You don't need that money anyway. Well, we don't believe that. We're going to make sure these people are held accountable, and we're going to stop this. And to stop it, we have to make sure people know it's happening.
Yeah, Tudor, as a matter of fact, the president posting today even more intel on True Social, saying there is more fraud in California than there is in Minnesota. If that is even possible, 2 crooked governors, 2 crooked states. Look, Tudor, here's the thing. I get it, but I'm telling you, the people on social media, the rank and file, the base of the MAGA movement, they are enraged. They want people marched out of their homes, arrested, and thrown in jail. They want accountability here. And all we're getting are these statements and this outrage.
Well, we absolutely need accountability, because imagine not paying your taxes and getting away with it. I mean, that would be the equivalent of the IRS just saying, you know what, there's a lot of people that don't pay their taxes. We're going to look the other way. It would never happen. It would absolutely never happen. They would hunt us down. They would find us. I mean, remember when they were hiring, 82,000 new IRS agents under the Biden administration that were going to find us, and they were going to weaponize those people to come out and find us and make sure that we paid our taxes. Wait a minute. We should be as picky about how they are using our taxes. We should make sure we know where every dime is going. And every time I hear of a government program, it seems to be that there is money in that government program that gets skimmed off for all kinds of people. And let's not forget that some of these daycares and some of these home health care centers were also conveniently donating to Democrats. It all has to come out and be exposed, and people must be held accountable. This administration, I believe in them. I believe that Donald Trump, our president, our wonderful president, will continue to pursue this and make sure that these people do not get away with it, because he knows that the future of the country, and I'm not exaggerating when I say this, the future of the country is dependent upon this stuff being rooted out and gotten rid of, or we will end up going from a capitalist country to a communist country. I mean, we're already seeing what's happening in New York City. What happened today? This attorney that defended Al-Qaeda is now going to be the attorney for New York City. This is the type of stuff that we're going to see happening across this country if we don't get serious about this. And I trust President Trump will.
Well, I hope so, Tudor. I love my president, and I don't want to see him. I'm concerned about the midterms. And we've already been through almost an entire year of the administration, and we haven't seen anything happen. And people are tired of this, and they want to see action here because you're right. We've got a country to save, and it is frightening where this country is heading tonight. So it is imperative that the Republicans, and somebody's going to have to light a fire under Republican leadership in the Congress, they're going to have to start taking this seriously. Real quick, House Oversight Chairman James Comer announcing today that Tim Walz, the Attorney General of Minnesota, Keith Ellison, and state representatives are coming in front of Congress to answer for the fraud. Again, do you think this is what the American people want, another hearing, or do they want action?
I believe that I agree with you. They want action, absolutely. And I think this administration has to get used to. My dad used to tell me all the time when I was in business, no one knows what you're doing unless you tell them. Advertise your progress. Make sure you're out there telling people what you're doing. The president is so good at this. He's so good at making sure he's out there with the people having the rallies, talking about what they're doing when it comes to affordability, when it comes to national security, when it comes to solving world war and bringing peace. He is a genius about this. His other administrative agencies need to also be advertising their progress. I know there have been indictments. I know there are going to be trials. We need to hear about it so that the American people know that they are working, but there needs to be more. Absolutely. And we need to hold them accountable to making sure there are more, that these people are not just indicted, that they are also prosecuted, and and we see justice as the American people. Our taxpayer dollars went to these people, and it's gone to other countries. And this is not right. It needs to be prosecuted.
All right, Tudor Dixon, great analysis there. Thank you. Happy New Year to you.
Happy New Year.
Highlighting the president's historic first year back as president with his impressive border efforts and crackdown on illegal aliens. Oh, that's coming up next.
Ring in the new year with our spectacular celebration full of fun, inspiration, and patriotic spirit. Newsmax takes you to the best parties in the USA, from the iconic ball drop at Times Square to Nashville's Big Bash. Join me along with fitness icon Jillian Michaels, Dr. Drew Pinsky, and legendary singer Lee Greenwood. It's a party for the whole family. Laughter, music, and motivation to start 2026 right. Don't miss our New Year's Eve special starting at 8 p.m.
Don't kibble your dog.
Oh, hey, Dr. Marty.
Hey, back.
But what's wrong with this? It's premium stuff.
Let's check it out. It's still kibble, which means it's ultra-processed at extremely high temperatures that destroy the nutrients in the food. But at Dr. Marty, we gently freeze-dried premium meats, fruit, and vegetables, locking in their nutrients.
Never kibbled.
You got it, kid, and they're gonna love it.
Our nurse-led care anticipates needs before they're voiced, from skilled nursing to companion care that renews the soul.
Total Beats, America's best-selling Beats brand, is available at Walmart. Total Beats blood pressure support soft chews contain a key ingredient clinically shown to deliver 2 times better blood pressure support. Take control of your health. Head to Walmart and get Total Beats blood pressure support soft chews today.
Last year, America's leading wireless provider spent $12 billion on advertising and promotions. That's billion with a B. Pure Talk? They hired me to make their commercials on my iPhone. Consequently, they can offer you unlimited talk, text, and plenty of data on a blazing fast 5G network for just $25 a month. Yeah, you can keep paying for those billion-dollar ad campaigns if you want, or you can start saving some real money when you switch to Pure Talk. Everything you need, nothing you don't.
And welcome back to Rob Schmitt. I'm Todd Starnes, and we are counting down the hours until the famous ball drop in New York City's Times Square. When the clock strikes midnight, well, it's expected to be below freezing in the Big Apple, but that won't stop the more than 1 million people, 1 million, expected to attend tonight. Newsmax's very own Sean Kreisman is in Times Square, looking very stylish tonight and hosting our special coverage. All right, Sean, set the scene for us. What are you seeing down there?
Well, you know, I like that you mentioned the cold, Todd, because 1 million people, yeah, they're here for sure in full force, but so is the cold. That hasn't stopped. Where are you at? Where are you guys at? Happy New Year! Let's go! You know, 1 million people here. They've been here for a very long time. So many of them came out to see this iconic ball drop in this moment here, ringing in 2026. And it's such a monumental time. These are our friends here that we just... What's your name?
Hi. Lara.
Laura, where are you from?
From Switzerland.
You came from Switzerland, and you came from Switzerland as well?
No, Argentina.
Wow, it's amazing. Why did you come here? Tell me why Times Square, you had to see the ball drop.
I mean, it's a once-in-a-lifetime experience.
What time did you get out here today?
Just 3 o'clock.
3 o'clock, and that is let me tell you, everyone I've talked to, they have been out here since 3. Once you get inside of these pens, you can't get out. You're stuck here all night until you hear that countdown happening, and that's when you see the ball drop and we ring in 2026. Of course, Todd, this year is going to be much different because at midnight when the ball drops, it will illuminate again for America 250 in red, white, and blue as we celebrate America turning 250 years old, the signing of the Declaration of Independence. That's when the ball drop will happen again on July 3rd, July 4th Eve, if you will. Huge, huge night. We've got big guests. We're going to play a lot of games with all these folks. The energy is going to be hype. It's going to happen all night, and I'm going to be here live for it. We'll send it back to you in the studio, Todd.
All right, Sean Kreisman, stay warm out there. It's going to be a lot of fun, folks, and it's all starting at 8 o'clock right after this show. Make sure to tune in for Newsmax's New Year's Eve with Sean Kreisman. Nowhere else to go but right here on Newsmax. Well, President Trump's White House is having a successful year at the border, deporting nearly 200,000 illegal aliens, with 1.6 million illegals self-deporting. Hundreds of millions of dollars in illegal drugs have been seized at the border. The president also signing the Laken-Riley Act into law, requiring illegal immigrants who get charged with theft or violence to be detained. And the wins don't stop there. The Trump administration terminating all taxpayer-funded public benefits for illegals, restarting construction of the border wall, and so much more. Now, within the president's first year, the U.S. is on track to see negative net migration. Just think about that for a moment. For the first time in at least 50 years. Chad Wolf, Executive Vice President of America First Policy Institute, joins me now. Chad, I got to tell you, I mean, this administration, home run and then some when it comes to securing the border.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, really, really incredible work. If you remember what they were up against, right? After 4 years of the Biden administration, basically opening the borders up and allowing millions of individuals to come across that border, abusing humanitarian parole. We had the CBP-1 app. Remember, you could go on your app and basically get a free entry into the country. Having to stop all of that and putting in a lot of the policies, some of which you just mentioned and others, we've seen apprehensions fall by 95%. No longer are releasing individuals into the interior of the country. Catch and release has been stopped by this administration. Fentanyl seizures are down. Deportations are up. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. And so President Trump deserves a lot of credit. His team deserves a lot of credit for what they've been able to do in a very short period of time.
You know, Chad, I had a lady call in on my national radio show earlier today. She was so excited. The lady's from Jersey. Her new son-in-law is going to become an ICE agent. And that story is being repeated, I have to imagine, all across the country. Thousands of people signing up. What do you make of the excitement around Border Patrol, ICE, and these government agencies right now?
I think what it tells you is that when law enforcement officers know that they'll be able to do their job and they're not going to be hamstrung by the politician or those that are leading them, they're going to sign up to do that job because there's a duty. They have a sense of duty. They're called to this type of work. And so whether it's ICE agents, the recruitment numbers are up, or Border Patrol agents for that matter, both numbers are up because they know that President Trump has their back. Unlike under 4 years under Joe Biden, they were called all sorts of names by both the president and the leadership in his administration. And you don't want to serve under that scenario, but it's very different now. And I think that's why a lot of those numbers are surging once again.
And it's a great point you make. You know, the State Department also unveiling a new plan to tackle the global crisis of mass migration, directing U.S. embassies across the Western Hemisphere to investigate and report on human rights abuses linked to mass migration. This is a huge problem that we've been seeing lately. What do you think about the plan?
Yeah, look, I think the Trump team is turning this on its head, right? Because we've been told for years and years and years that, mass migration, that the U.S. is a welcoming country and we need to take all of these individuals in. Instead, what we know and what the Trump team knows is that mass migration actually fuels violence. It fuels the human trafficking. It fuels these human rights violations. And so they're absolutely right to say, hey, for those that want to continue to partake in illegal mass migration, we're actually going to start to look in and we're going to hold them accountable, because that's where the atrocities come from. It's not necessarily someone who wants to come here for a better job. It's the journey in which and how they get here to the United States that makes it so dangerous, and where we see so much carnage and lives lost or lives being wrecked.
All right, Chad Wolf, we're going to have to leave it there. Thank you, and Happy New Year to you.
All right, Happy New Year.
Well, a Harvard professor retiring over its woke culture. That story's next.
I'm Michael Savage, and I was conservative before conservative was cool. Do you realize how crazy the liberals in this country have become? I do. You want to get me started today? I'll get started. Watch Michael Savage and the Savage Nation every Sunday night.
It's time to celebrate with Omaha Steaks' end-of-season event. For a limited time, we're offering 50% off site-wide. That's 50% off all your favorites, like our Butcher's Classic Assortment, including our USDA-certified tender filet mignon and top sirloin fillets, plus chicken, pork chops, desserts, and more, all for just $99.99. Plus, you'll get 8 burgers free when you visit omahasteaks.com/TV today.
Samaritan's Purse is ready to show the love of Christ to people in the most difficult circumstances. But we can't go without you. With your support, we can build homes, heal hearts, provide critical relief, and bring hope to a world in need. Donate now at SamaritansPurse.org. Let's get to work in Jesus' name.
This is the story of the one. The one knows that when the big game is days away, the unexpected can put everything on the line. But with a solid game plan and a teammate like Grainger that she can rely on to deliver the product she needs when she needs it, she's confident that she will always win the day. And her team will do the same. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Why are so many dogs dying before their time? In my experience, great health starts with great food. That's why I created Badlands Ranch Superfood Complete. It contains powerful canine superfoods that directly support your dog's digestion, skin and coat, mobility, and so much more. And it's air dried. That means cooked low and slow, no high heat. We have thousands of 5-star reviews. And for a limited time, get up to 50% off with our special TV offer. Go to badlandsranch.com/TV. That's badlandsranch.com/TV.
I lost 110 pounds. You couldn't tell it all because of my excess skin. Sono Bello changed that in one visit.
Introducing the new Lift EX, the just one visit total body transformation everyone is talking about.
I am super happy with my results.
I decided to give Sono Bello a try. Look at me, I have a silhouette. You can see my waist.
Lift EX is Sono Bello's breakthrough 360-degree body lift alternative. Our body contouring experts sculpt, tighten, and lift your stomach, waist, thighs, and backside, all in just one visit with less downtime.
Sono Bello targeted the areas diet and exercise could not do. I found me again.
Sono Bello has over 50,000 5-star reviews, and Lift EX is exclusively available at Sono Bello, America's #1 cosmetic surgery specialist. Book your free, personalized consultation today. Easy monthly plans make your best body more affordable than ever.
This year is my year thanks to Sono Bello.
Call Sono Bello for your free consultation today.
While President Trump works to rid higher education of woke nonsense, anti-American sentiment, and DEI foolishness, well, there is still some left behind at the institutions. James Hankins, a history professor who spent 40 years teaching at Harvard University, torching the Ivy League institution over its exclusion of white males. In a fiery essay announcing his retirement, a piece titled "Why I'm Leaving Harvard," Hankins explains his decision to retire was made back in 2021 after the 2 years of the COVID-19 pandemic and the George Floyd riots, the latter of which he felt dramatically changed the school's graduate admissions process. Hankins, writing and reviewing graduate student applicants in the fall of 2020, I came across an outstanding prospect who was a perfect fit for our program. In past years, this candidate would have risen immediately to the top of the applicant pool. In 2021, however, I was told informally by a member of the admissions committee that meaning admitting a white male was not happening this year. Hankins also saying in another instance in the same year, a certifiably brilliant undergrad I had tutored who was literally the best student at Harvard was also rejected from the school's graduate program. He too was a white male. Well, Nathan Roberts is the co-founder of Save Heritage Indiana, and Ryan Leonard, president of the NYU College Republicans, joining us now. Good to have you with us, gentlemen. Nathan, your reaction to this professor's stunning letter.
Well, it's not surprising. What I'm going to say is a little bit controversial, but straight white men are the most discriminated group in modern American society. And the worst part about this discrimination is it's not happening behind the scenes. They're not even trying to hide it. They brag about doing it. There was a study of the S&P 100 top companies. Since COVID, of the new job growth that they've had, 94% of those jobs have gone to non-white people, and only 6% has gone to white men. In the Indiana Republican and Democratic parties in the state that I live in, they both have rules about you have to have one of each gender for everything. Discrimination in America goes on in every single institution that we have in our country. There's not a single one that doesn't do it, especially against white men. And it's bad because I think if you wanted to do sort of affirmative action stuff, it would make much more sense to do it based off economic reasons than racial or gender reasons. Like, look at J.D. Vance.
Ryan, I want to bring you.
J.D. Vance.
Hold on a second here. Hold on a second here, Nathan. I want to bring Ryan into this. Ryan, you're a conservative in the belly of the beast there in New York City. Has that been your experience as well, that what Nathan is describing on these university campuses?
Yeah, totally. Doesn't make you the most popular to be a conservative in spaces like these, but for that reason, it's all the more important. Empowering people to stand up for their beliefs and just call out this blatant, obvious anti-whiteism, anti-masculine, attitude. It's so important because it empowers others to do the same and to call out the things that we're all seeing, that things that we all notice.
Nathan, I want to go back to a story we were talking about Loyola University in Maryland. They actually decided to remove the word English from their English department. They're saying literature was built on white supremacy, announcing they are considering a name change. The college stating literature and the literary canons have been used to validate white supremacy, adding the department will reflect on what it means to be called an English department, given the discipline's roots in imperialism and Eurocentrism. Your reaction to that?
Well, I would say obviously it's super funny and absurd, but we should also take this in mind. The people who believe in those things, like saying the word English is bad because of imperialism and white supremacy, those are the people that have ran America's largest corporations and universities. And I would say one of our political parties for the last 5 years. It's really easy to point at them and laugh at them and say it's ridiculous, because obviously it is. But Republicans need to take this very, very seriously, that probably 25% of the country, and I would say it's maybe the most influential 25%, believe these things and run some of our most powerful institutions.
All right, Ryan, I want to give you the last word, 30 seconds here. How do we fix all of this on the university campuses? What's the answer?
Yeah, first of all, like I said, just speaking up, talking about it when we see these clear anti-white, anti-men attitudes, just being able to be the one who says what we're all thinking. And on top of that, continuing to, interact in these circles, not letting these institutions be taken over, not just ceding power to all these people who hate us and want to kill us and want our lives ruined, staying in the fight and remaining in these places where you might not be the most popular, you might not have the best time, but you're fighting the good fight and holding control where it matters.
All right, Nathan Roberts, Ryan Leonard, two good white guys. Fellas, thank you. Happy New Year to you.
Happy New Year.
Thank you.
Unbelievable, folks. All right, Chick-fil-A doubling down in the DEI department. Chick-fil-A? But their woke policies may not last much longer. The Trump administration cracking down on DEI practices at major companies. Stay with us.
Big media will never stop their antics, their bias, their ugly insinuations, their nasty attacks. Well, they may never stop, but I will never stop exposing them.
Hi there, I'm Dean Heskin, President and CEO of Swiss America. With trillions of dollars vanishing from the stock portfolios of retiring Americans, many hardworking people I speak with are concerned about the holdings in their IRAs. But I have good news for you. Our team at Swiss America can show you how easy it is to own gold in your IRA. You see, even with economic turmoil all around us, gold continues to not only be a safe haven, but is also increasing to all-time highs. The volatility of markets has created a lot of undue stress for people. Wouldn't you like that peace of mind that diversifying into metals can provide? For over 40 years, Swiss America has helped people just like you own precious metals in your IRAs. So don't miss this opportunity. Call or text our team at the number on your screen to receive a free copy of our Gold IRA brochure today.
Get the life back. Okay, we're good. He's breathing. Okay.
When I saw that Ethan was not breathing, I determined that I needed to use something to remove the obstruction from his airway.
It's very important for every household to have a life vest.
Everyone should have one in their home. Anything can happen at any moment.
I want my friends and family and people that I serve to know that we have this device to potentially save lives.
Protect your family. Go to lifehack.net.
Go to lifehack.net or call 877-543-3822.
One of my favorite supplements is Cunol Turmeric. Turmeric helps with healthy joints and inflammation support, and Cunol has the #1 doctor-recommended form of turmeric. Cunol, the brand I trust.
Patriots. America was built by people who believed in something greater than themselves, something worth protecting. Today, one of America's top growing industries is political campaigns, a multi-billion-dollar movement powered by tech, data, and the American people. Meet FullPack, a tech platform trusted by thousands of campaigns nationwide to connect directly with voters. FullPack is expected to begin trading on NASDAQ soon, under the ticker GOTV for Get Out the Vote. But before we begin trading, we're offering a limited number of shares to patriots like you for $5 each, providing your portfolio exposure to this fast-growing market. Capitalism helped build America into the shining beacon on the hill. Now you can own a stake in the heartbeat of America. Visit gotv.com/invest or call 8777-30-GOTV to learn more.
Get ready to deck the walls with 14 days of deals at Cabinets to Go. Now through December 31st, save up to 70% on kitchen cabinet collections. Plus, holiday deals on accents, accessories, and more. 14 days of deals. Cabinets to Go, designed to wow.
Muscle cramps were keeping me up at night, so then I tried Slowmag, the magnesium plus calcium supplement that helps relax tense muscles so I can rest comfortably. And Slowmag tablets have a slow-release formula that's gentle on my stomach. That's why I use Slowmag.
And welcome back to Rob Schmitt Tonight. I'm Todd Starnes, and for Rob, as we count down the hours until 2026, celebrations taking place across the globe. But with just a few hours to go, Nashville's New Year's Eve Big Bash is well underway. Newsmax correspondent Jon Glasgow is there in the middle of it all. All right, Jon, set the scene for us in Nash Vegas.
Todd, let me just say I have the best gig on Newsmax tonight. Nashville is rocking the Music City. You got 250,000 people that are going to be down here tonight. This is about a mile from Broadway. We're right in downtown Nashville, and on the stage behind me you're going to have some of the hottest country music stars. We actually got a chance to listen to their sound check today, so I've heard all the songs. They sound great. You've got Bailey Zimmerman, you've got Lainey Wilson, and Jason Aldean hitting the stage. Hardy's going to host this. It looks like it's just starting to get underway here behind me. We've been waiting for it all day. And also, you've got one of the top comedians right now that's going to be the host of this event tonight. I actually had a chance to talk with Bert Kreischer a little bit earlier today. He took me on his bus, and here's what he had to say. Watch. What's your New Year's resolution for 2026?
Stop watching mukbang videos. I watch mukbang videos all day long. I can't see. Do you know they are?
No, I don't.
Are you serious?
I don't know who they are.
Oh my God! It's a guy sitting in his Honda Civic with $150 worth of Taco Bell and a 32-ounce cup of cheese, dipping cheese burritos in it, and just. I watch them all day long. I'm fans of certain people. I've got to stop watching mukbang. I want to get offline. I'm ruining my life.
An incredible song. Can we just take a moment and give a round
He
of
is
applause
honestly
for
one of the
everybody
funniest guys I've ever met. But he's going to be hosting tonight. I heard his script. He's got some
It is a
banger
personal
lines,
event for him.
so it's going to be a lot of fun. And a lot of people here coming in, just trickling in. Show's about to start. I'll send it back to you, Todd. Happy New Year to you, my friend.
I get to host this.
All right, Happy New Year, Jon Glasgow. Won't ever look at Taco Bell quite the same after that. All right, going to be a lot of fun, folks. Well, the Trump administration launching investigations into the use of DEI at major U.S. companies using a federal law that's meant to punish businesses that cheat the government. Now, according to the Wall Street Journal, under the umbrella of the False Claims Act, the Justice Department is embracing the theory that holding a federal contract while still considering diversity when hiring is considered fraud against the government. Companies like Alphabet's Google, Verizon Communications are among those with federal contracts that are under investigation. But what about Chick-fil-A? The business built on faith is doubling down on their woke same-sex marriage postings as well as their corporate DEI program, even having a vice president of DEI in their corporate hierarchy. Tony Perkins, Family Research Council president, joins us now. Tony, good to see you. Now, you guys have been leading the charge with sort of outing Chick-fil-A here. What can you tell us about their woke policies?
Well, Todd, as you just pointed out, the tide has turned on DEI. We have major corporations, Target, we've got Coca-Cola, we've got others that are moving away from DEI, but yet we have Chick-fil-A that really has dug in on this, which is quite astounding, given their, as you pointed out, their faith background. I mean, they have a constituency, a customer base that, not only likes their chicken, but if you go back about 13 years when their founder, who's no longer alive, took a stand on marriage, that's really what put them on the map, because they began to be boycotted by those who were pushing this leftist agenda. And they said, no, we stand for marriage between a man and a woman. And you might remember Governor Huckabee, then Governor Huckabee, now ambassador to Israel, supported him. We did. And it's quite astounding that they are stuck in this DEI rut.
Tony, do you regret supporting Chick-fil-A?
Well, first off, no. I mean, I would support any entity that stands up for biblical values, and that's what their founder, Truett Cathy, did, and so I supported them. Now they've changed. Clearly, they've changed. I thought they were going to come back to an understanding of what is right and what is wrong, a biblical understanding, and hold to that in their values as a corporation. Even I've had conversations with some of their corporate leaders, but these latest revelations about celebrating same-sex marriage at some of their stores clearly shows that they have not. I mean, I don't think they understand, Todd, what many other corporations understand, that the wages of DEI are death, business-wise. And so I think more than the government weighing in on this, I think consumers need to say, hey, I'll pass on that chicken sandwich. I'll have a burger, or I'll go to another chicken establishment if that's what you want to do. It's one thing to hold yourself out as a faith-based company, but then to embrace values that are counter to that, that's the problem here.
Well, it certainly appears that Chick-fil-A's traditional values have gone the way of the carrot salad, no longer on the menu. Tony Perkins, thank you, and Happy New Year to you.
Happy New Year to you, Todd.
Well, the worst of the worst from the legacy media this year, that is next in News from the Left.
I'm Elmer Heinrich, at 91 years of age with my wife Shirley, who is 83. Now, both of us are still cutting a wide swath in life, all because of Immuno 150. Now, neither of us have any kind of sickness, and we're as flexible as we were 30 years ago, and we still do the physical things we did 30 years ago. Now, we are asking you to use Immuno 150 like we do. Give it a chance for at least 90 days so that you can see what 70 plant minerals and 80 additional nutrients can do for you. You won't believe it. Immuno 150 is an awesome nutritional supplement. There's nothing like it.
Yes, it really is incredible.
Yeah, try it. You will be surprised. Order online or call the number listed on the screen, but don't place your order until after you've watched the videos on our website. Thank you from both of us, and God bless.
Drop is finally here. Drop delivers the weight loss benefits of GLP-1 injections in easy-to-use oral drops, no needles.
That's right. The two big drawbacks with weight loss injections are high costs and weekly injections. Drop is flavorless and odorless, so you can just add it to water or your favorite beverage. Drop offers other advantages over injections too. With Drop, you can personalize your dosage based on your weight loss goals.
And because you add Drop to any liquid, there's no concern about injection site infections, bruising, or dosage confusion.
Drop is the easier, safer, cost-effective alternative to help you achieve your weight loss goals without the needles.
Can't find it anywhere? The Wellness Company has it. No consultation needed. Simply order online and use promo code SLIM to save $100. Visit dropthepounds.com/slim. That's promo code SLIM at dropthepounds.com/slim.
Hungry Root is here, and I needed it because my fridge is super empty.
It's so easy to just whip together a quick, healthy meal.
Head to hungryroot.com for healthy groceries and simple recipes. Plus, get free veggies for life.
LifeLock monitors hundreds of millions of data points per second and quickly alerts you to identity threats you could miss, like changes to your investment accounts, home title, and loans opened in your name, right on your phone. LifeLock. Join today.
I'm former Mets manager Terry Collins. The Tunnel Towers Foundation is very important to me, and I look for ways to try to support them any way I can. If a first responder is killed in the line of duty, T2T will pay off the mortgage for their family. That's just one of the ways T2T makes a difference. You can support their cause as well by donating $11 a month. Go to T2T.org, let's go Mets, and let's help Tunnel Towers.
Time now for news from the left. We all know how terrible and insufferable the legacy media has become. A bunch of lefty hacks, anchors, pundits spewing fake news, Democrat propaganda. As 2025 comes to an end, well, we figured we'd show you some of the worst from the fake news this past year. Maybe the worst moment belonging to ex-MSNBC contributor Matthew Dowd, who had a despicable take in the immediate aftermath of the Charlie Kirk assassination. Watch this.
He's been one of the most divisive, especially divisive younger figures in this, who is constantly sort of pushing this sort of hate speech or sort of aimed at certain groups. And I always go back to hateful thoughts lead to hateful words, which then lead to hateful actions.
Well, the only good news from that story, Dowd was fired from the network a day later for those horrendous comments. But if you thought that was bad, don't forget about little Jimmy Kimmel. He got suspended for a week over his comments about the assassination. Watch.
We hit some new lows over the weekend with the MAGA gang desperately trying to characterize this kid who murdered Charlie Kirk as anything other than one of them and doing everything they can to score political points from it.
Well, you'd think Kimmel and the rest of the lapdog media would have learned their lesson, especially with all the wins President Trump has had against the media this year, including settling that lawsuit with CBS, $16 million, yanking federal funding from left-wing propaganda machines, PBS, NPR, as well as filing another $10 billion lawsuit against the BBC for their deceptive editing of his January 6th speech. Unfortunately, it just doesn't seem the media has gotten the memo yet. Tim Graham is the executive editor of Newsbusters. Kristin Tate, a fellow at the Independent Women's Forum. They join us now. Tim, what do you think was the worst moment from the media this year?
Well, both of the ones you suggested there are pretty bad. And, you know, you can't decide. It's a decision between, do we think Charlie Kirk killed himself or somebody who loved Trump killed Charlie Kirk? They're both ridiculous. And, you know, sadly, only one of them was canceled. You know, Jimmy Kimmel certainly could have and should have been canceled for that kind of comment. Both of these gentlemen were trying to please what they think their audience, they're trying to please their base, they're trying to please their audience and say things like, well, we can't acknowledge at all the obvious point that Charlie Kirk's shooter hated Charlie Kirk and what he represented. That's become quite clear. And then just to try to say that, this is what I always can't stand when liberals say, oh, they're so divisive. He's saying that on MSNBC, which is divisive 24/7.
Yeah, no doubt about that. Kristin, do you think the media, have they learned their lesson? Are they going to change in 2026? I'm sorry, I tried to say that without laughing.
Yeah, I won't be holding my breath, Todd. But look, I have some Gen Zers in my family. I know a lot of young people. I can tell you, they don't even know who Matthew Dowd or Jimmy Kimmel even are. These people are on the mainstream media are becoming so irrelevant. And as they become more irrelevant and they lose more of their audience, they just think that by doubling down and becoming more extreme, somehow that will save them. It has the opposite effect. So these fools who are on these dying late night television shows and MSNBC, they're just over there in the corner shouting into the ether, and increasingly just nobody's listening to them. So I think, you know, yes, these are terrible moments, but this year has been a year for clarity, because so many people who might have just trusted the media in the past now see so many of these people in the mainstream media for what they are. They became too flagrant in their bias. And now, you know, it's kind of been exposed. The hoax is exposed for so many to see, and people are just tuning out to these fools.
All right, Tim Graham, Kristin Tate, guys, thank you very much. Well, it's New Year's Eve, and Americans are gearing up to ring in the new year with unique celebrations. More on that next.
It's true. I am an America First, liberty-loving Latino. That's why I know this country is worth fighting for. That's why the Chris Salcedo Show will always tell you the truth.
The Chris Salcedo Show, for the news you need to know. It's fun for me to win on the course, but it's even more fun to win on Deal Dash.
Lori won $2,000 Tiffany earrings for just $1, and Joseph won an iPad for just $6. There's millions of fast auctions, so try today at DealDash.com for $50 of free credit and your first win guaranteed.
At Bright Star Care, our nurse-led care anticipates needs before they are voiced. We'll be there.
If you're in pain but need to stay mobile, you need CopperFit Rapid Relief, the revolutionary line of hot and cold therapy wraps that keep you mobile while you recover, no matter where it hurts. A breakthrough adjustable design with a soft gel pack insert in a lightweight copper-infused wrap for targeted hot or cold pain-relieving therapy of sore muscles and achy joints. If it hurts, CopperFit's got you covered. Get the full line of CopperFit Rapid Relief wraps, available at Walmart pharmacies.
Don't let hackers start the new year with your money. Cyber criminals are targeting your savings and identity and your personal information. Respond with Guardio. Guardio is a security tool that stops fake sites in real time, flags malicious emails, and blocks phishing links, helping you outsmart modern threats and stay in control of your online security. Run a free scan to see if your information is already exposed by going to Guardio.com now.
There are only a few men I'd trust with my life. Two of them built this wallet. I've known the guys behind Proof for nearly 20 years, and we've been through hell and back together. When they told me they were building the wallet, I just said, bill me now, I'm in. This isn't some fashion piece. This isn't just some trend. These wallets are a direct reflection of the kind of men who built it. It's built to last, built to function, and designed to carry everything you need and more. If anything happens to it, they'll take care of it. No questions, no fine print. If you knew the guys who created this wallet, you wouldn't carry anything else. Go check them out because they built this thing right.
Don't kibble your dog.
Oh, hey, Dr. Marty.
Hey, back.
But what's wrong with this? It's premium stuff.
Let's check it out. It's still kibble. And even the best kibbles still get kibbled. Which means they're ultra-processed at extremely high temperatures that destroy the nutrients in the food. Then they have to add synthetic nutrients back in just to meet label requirements.
Are they all like this?
Sadly, they are. These poor pups have low energy, bad digestion, itchiness, and allergies, all from eating ultra-processed junk food for every single meal. But at Dr. Marty, we gently freeze-dried premium meats, fruits, and vegetables, locking in their nutrients.
Real meats, real fruits, real veggies, nothing else. Never kibbled.
You got it, kid. So don't kibble your dog. Dr. Marty will make your best friend healthier, and they're gonna love it, guaranteed.
Halfway doesn't win fights. We show up every day. I'm proud to partner with Balance of Nature, real whole fruit and vegetable ingredients. Nothing halfway.
Lock in 50% off for 1 year when you subscribe to the Whole Health System.
This is the one who makes sparks fly. Getting it done takes the right material, experience, and the right partner. The professional grade products you need. Call, click Grainger.com, or stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Finally tonight, it's New Year's Eve. Celebrations have already begun worldwide as people ring in 2026. Now, towns around the United States are gearing up for their unique celebrations, closely resembling the iconic New York City ball drop. Waterfront town Brunswick in Georgia with their annual shrimp drop. In Boise, Idaho, they celebrate 2026 by dropping a potato. Mount Olive, North Carolina, where the popular pickle brand hails from, well, they drop a glittery 6-foot-long pickle. And in Mobile, Alabama, a 600-pound moon pie descends from the sky in a 60-second countdown to the new year. A lot of fun to see how towns across this great nation celebrate in their own unique fashion. And before we go, I want to tell you about my new book. It is a great way to kick off the America 250 celebration, Star-Spangled Blessings, Devotions for Patriots. It's a collection of inspirational stories about how God has blessed our nation from George Washington to Donald Trump. By the way, also included some pretty great all-American recipes to spice up your America 250 party. Star-Spangled Blessings, available at your favorite bookstore, or you can purchase a copy on Amazon. Well, thank you all for watching. Happy New Year. Fennerty is next, kicking off our special coverage of Newsmax New Year's Eve with Sean Kreisman. Don't go anywhere.